I've always read these Reddit threads, but never thought I'd be the one posting. But I honestly and desperately need advice, and a fresh set of eyes, if you will. Some backstory is needed first. I've recently gotten married to my husband. We're almost at 6 months, so it's pretty fresh. And while I do absolutely love him and want to be married to him, I'd be lying if I said our marriage wasn't a little unorthodox. We only knew each other about 6 months prior to us getting married, and the reason we decided to tie the knot so quickly was out of necessity almost. You see, when we started dating, we both fell for each other pretty quickly and found we had much in common and wanted the same things in life. So we were talking about marriage very early on into dating. He has 2 young daughters, 5 and 4, from a previous marriage that he has sole custody of. And prior to our marriage, he was taking care of them with the help of his mother. While we were dating, we would regularly take them out to places like the zoo, trampoline park, etc. He works a job that allows him to work for 2 weeks and then be off for a week. So our dates would usually happen during that off week. He wanted to take a road trip with me to visit his dad a few states away on one of his off weeks, so I requested time off from work for that week. This also happened to be a week that the kid's mom had the girls, meaning he didn't have to leave them with his mom. We get on the road and he gets a call from his mom. It lasted a few minutes, and she basically told him she couldn't help him care for his girls anymore. She has bad arthritis that makes it hard for her to get around, and that he would need to make other arrangements for the girls' care. This story is getting to be longer than I intended it to be and kinda all over the place, but please bear with me. Anyways, as you can guess, that's when we decided it's best to get married now, as we were already planning on getting married later anyway, and also because of a clause in his divorce with the girl's mom. It's a no-shack clause that prohibits either party from having a member of the opposite spouse live with them for the well-being of the children. That clause lasts a year. So basically, we would have to date for a year before we were able to move in together without being married, which I was fine with. I had bought my own house a while ago and was living comfortably with my 3 dogs, and he had a rent house. So yeah, during that trip, we decided to stop in Vegas and get legally married so I could help him with his girls, since that was the plan in the long run. I had to quit my job to be their full-time caregiver, which was quite the culture shock for me. I had always worked for everything I had, and now, suddenly, I was a jobless, stay-at-home mom of these girls I barely knew. I went from having a pretty decent career at a job I'd been at for 6 years to having to ask my husband if it's okay to get myself a coffee. And while I'm not that materialistic, I was used to buying myself whatever I wanted, to a point, of course. I wasn't rich by any means, but I supported myself, had a house and car payment, my 3 big dogs, and had money left over to save and spend how I wish. The first month was the hardest, as I was finding out just how much he did around the house. His mother was doing almost 100% of the housework, cooking, parenting, etc., even during his off week. He would argue that he works and shouldn't have to come home and worry about cooking, cleaning, and the like. I would argue that I quit my job to help him because I love him enough to do so, and he would almost throw it back in my face and say it was for us and that it was selfish of me to see it as a sacrifice on my part. Over the next few months, it's become easier. I've been the only one cooking, cleaning, parenting, and when I make a remark about how he leaves trash or a cup somewhere, he just tells me that I'm a stay-at-home. It shouldn't be hard for me. Just yesterday, he had knocked a tissue box on the floor off of his bedside table. I didn't pick it up all day because, honestly, I didn't even really notice it. But when he came home, he said, "Wow, you couldn't pick that up?" I just responded, "I'm not the one who knocked it off." He came back with, "You had all day to pick it up." I just ignored him because I wanted to scream. The littlest things like that are such triggers for me now, because I pick up after him all day, not to mention pick up and clean after his kids. And I just don't know what to say to him to make him understand that what I'm doing for him is a labor of love, literally. I'm getting to the end, I promise. I had 3 dogs that I kept inside before we got married, and I moved in. He didn't want my dogs inside. He doesn't like dog hair or dogs that much, so I reluctantly agreed. Those dogs were my world before we met, They all slept in my bed with me. I spent all my free time almost with them. I love them a lot. We keep them in the backyard. Their living conditions are fine, of course. But I felt bad because they had always been inside dogs for the most part. About a week ago, I went outside and found one of my dogs had died, and I was just a complete wreck. He was getting older, but nowhere near old enough to pass away from old age. We had guessed he may have had a heart attack or something. I cried endlessly. That was my baby, and I couldn't help but feel like if I hadn't kept them outside, then it wouldn't have happened. So, needless to say, I've been pretty upset since that happened. 2 nights ago, he makes a comment about how I've been having an attitude lately. In reality, I've just been upset and not wanting to argue with him over a little shoot. So I've been mostly just agreeing with him and doing whatever he asks and not saying anything. I make 3 meals a day, and then when he gets in bed, he wants another whole meal, so I make that too. If he needs something or wants something, I'm the one to get up and get it or do whatever it is, like turn the fan on, the AC up, get him a water. If I try to say anything, he just tells me I don't love him. He works and his back hurts, he's hungry, and I stay at home, so I shouldn't complain. The thing is, my job was easier than my life now, and he doesn't see it that way. He looks at it like he's doing me a favor by letting me stay home, but I see it as he needed me and I obliged out of love. Anyways, last bit. The same 2 nights ago, he had made some remark that I should be glad he doesn't wake me up to make him coffee at 4 a.m. when he goes to work. And I honestly forgot what I said back to him because I was just trying to ignore it because it was so stupid. And of course, he wakes me up yesterday, and I just get up and do it because I don't want to fight, because he would literally be mad at me if I didn't. So I make his coffee with the Keurig that takes 30 seconds and get back in bed, although I can't fall asleep again and I'm tired the rest of the day. And again, this morning, he wakes me up and I'm sitting here typing this. I have to get out of bed soon and get the girls ready and take the older one to school. I'm just at my wit's end because I don't know what to say to this man. I texted him as he drove away for work that we need to talk when he gets home. And he called me and said, "No, we talk right now." "Yes, sir." I told him no because I needed time to collect my thoughts, because every time I try to talk to him, I can never get all my words out. And he ends up just talking over me and saying I don't love him or something similar. When I got up to make his coffee today, I said, "Please, I won't be able to go back to sleep." He said, "Neither will I work all day." I told him that I work all day too. I almost broke down and cried, but I just didn't want to argue, so I got in bed and just lay there fuming. I don't know why he's making me get up and make his stupid coffee when he can just do it himself. I need some advice. What do I say to him to make him understand my point of view? I know this text post is all over the place, and I'm sorry. I really didn't have time to compose a coherent, put-together piece, and I've never posted before, as I said, but please, if you could give me some advice or insight, anything is appreciated. I just need to figure out what to say to him later when he comes home. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He is taking advantage of you and you are letting him. You are basically his mom maid now. He has made you believe it is normal. Please consider getting out of this marriage before you become a shell of a person. I think this will only head into an hurtful situation if it is not already. For your information, it is not normal to have to ask your spouse if you can buy a coffee. Also, I am so sorry this is happening to you. Please consider seeing a therapist as soon as possible, for yourself, not together. And tell a trusted family member friend what is happening. Comment 2. Wow. You are totally being taken advantage of. You need to go back to work. He needs to figure out childcare for his children. This is not your responsibility. You got caught up in love and did not take the time to truly get to know him. It is time to take back your life. Bring the dogs back inside, for goodness sake. It is your house and your dogs. He does not make the rules. Quite frankly, it is time to divorce him. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around to hear more of my saga. So, after that whole coffee mess, things took a turn for the worse. I thought I had seen the worst of it, but boy, was I wrong. The day after I sent that text to my husband about needing to talk, he came home with a look on his face that I couldn't quite place. It was a mix of anger and something else. Guilt, maybe? Before I could even get a word out, he dropped a news on me. He'd been laid off from his job, the job that he'd always held over my head, the one that justified his every demand. The atmosphere in the house shifted instantly. The power dynamic that had been so heavily skewed in his favor was suddenly up in the air. And as much as I wanted to feel for him, to be the supportive wife, resentment bubbled up inside me. Here I was, having given up my career, my independence, and now this. But that wasn't even the half of it. The next day, his ex-wife showed up at our door furious. Turns out, she'd been laid off too, and she was demanding to take the girls back. She claimed that since my husband was no longer working, the custody agreement needed to be reevaluated. I was stunned. I had grown to love those girls like they were my own, and the thought of them being ripped away from us was unbearable. In the midst of all this chaos, I found out something that made my blood run cold. My husband had been hiding debt, a lot of it. Credit cards maxed out, loans taken out against the house, you name it. He'd been living a lie, and now it was all crashing down around us. I was at a loss. I felt trapped in a life that was spiraling out of control. I had no job, no money of my own, and now potentially no family. The man I had married, the life I had chosen, it was all a sham. But I wasn't going to let it end like this. I took action. I reached out to my old boss and by some miracle managed to get my job back. It wasn't easy, swallowing my pride and asking for help, but it was necessary. I needed to regain some semblance of control over my life. With a steady income once again, I started to make plans. I couldn't stay in this marriage, not after everything that had come to light. I contacted a lawyer and started the divorce proceedings. It was the hardest decision I'd ever made, but it was also the most freeing. As for my husband, he was forced to face the consequences of his actions. With no job and a mountain of debt, he had to sell the house. His ex-wife took custody of the girls, and he moved into a small apartment, a shadow of the man he once pretended to be. And me? I'm rebuilding my life, piece by piece. It's not easy, and there are days when I feel overwhelmed by it all. But I'm finding strength I never knew I had. I'm standing on my own 2 feet, and for the first time in a long time, I'm looking forward to the future. Thanks for reading. It's been a hell of a week. My ex wanted to keep me on the side while married. So I exposed his lies and watched as his wife kicked him to the curb, and he lost everything. Throw away and apologies if this is too long, but some details are necessary. So here goes. I met a guy, Harry, around 3 years ago. We started dating and really liked each other. Around the 6-month mark, we started talking about marriage, but found out that we disagreed on some issues. Like, I preferred a monogamous marriage, he didn't, and broke up. He went away and we lost contact. About 4 months after this, Harry called me out of the blue and said he would like to meet. I asked him what it was about and he refused to say it on the call. When I met up with him, he seemed really upset, almost in tears. He mentioned that he had gotten married and his wife Sally is okay with being with a polygamous guy. I congratulated him on finding what he was looking for. He became even more upset. He added that he is not able to forget me and thinks of us as a couple all the time. I reminded him that I still find polygamous marriages complex and my stance has not changed. I do not wish to be in one. He put his face in his hands and sat there without moving for some time. I would be lying if I said I didn't feel upset too seeing him like that. After some time, he spoke up and asked if I would be okay just being friends with him. He said that he cannot imagine a life without me. So if I would be only willing to be in his life this way, he would accept it too. He just didn't want to be completely cut off. He looked truly miserable. I agreed to being friends. Over these next 2 years, he kept in touch mostly by call, telling me stuff about his day, his job, his friends, etc. We met up just a few handful of times over coffee, in the presence of other friends, if he was close to my workplace, where he would discuss his life in general. The meetings never lasted very long. About a month ago, I received a message from Sally, his wife. She asked how I was doing. I answered, exchanged the usual niceties, and thought that was the end of the conversation. After the text, she proceeded to call me. I was at work, so couldn't answer. She then messaged me again and said to call her back. I told her that I was busy at that time and would get back to her. She then continued texting me. She said that she wants me to get married to Harry, as he seems unable to forget me. I informed her that we're just friends and I am not interested in a relationship with Harry. I would also not be talking to Harry henceforth. That didn't seem to change her position on the topic, and she kept insisting that it's the right thing to do for Harry. I messaged Harry asking what this was about. He said that for the past 2 weeks, his wife has been constantly asking about me, and has come to the conclusion that the only way forward in their marriage is if I was also in that marriage. Harry had mentioned me to her, which led to her inquiring further. While Harry didn't insist, he said he would be happy if I would consider this proposal again. He also said that he already knows that it will be a no from me, which is why he didn't bring it up with me. I have since not talked to any of them, but Sally continues to try to reach out to me, sending texts even when I don't reply. I am not sure why she's pushing for it even harder than Harry ever did. Her last text is a dinner invitation for all 3 of us. She also occasionally sends emotional messages about how this is all affecting Harry's well-being. How do I make Sally understand that I will not be a part of their marriage? Also, we all live in a country where polygamy is legal. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He got married 4 months after breaking up with you? Him and his wife both sound emotionally stunted. You are absolutely right to cut them both off. A big thing about living in any sort of kink lifestyle, and yes, I include polyamory in that definition, is that consent and respect are the main tenets. You made it clear you do not consent to this sort of lifestyle and do not want to be a part of it. They are not respecting that decision. Your ex is a moron. Comment 2. Sounds like you are friends with him out of pity now. Block her. Send him a text saying you do not wish to keep him in your life anymore, that you wish him the best, but that it will have to be far away from you. He is not bringing you anything positive. Why are you friends with him other than it would hurt him not to be friends with me? Now, for the update. Thanks for all the comments on my last post. Here's what happened next. The dinner invitation from Sally was the last straw. I decided to confront Harry about the whole mess. I told him we needed to talk, and he agreed to meet me at a local park. The air was tense, and I could tell he was nervous about what I was going to say. I laid it out for him. I told Harry that his wife's persistence was crossing a line, and that I felt like I was being dragged into their marital issues. I wanted no part in it. Harry's face fell, and he started to apologize, saying he never meant for things to get this far. But then, he dropped a surprise that I never saw coming. Harry confessed that he had been lying to both Sally and me. He wasn't in a polygamous marriage at all. Sally had no idea he was still in contact with me, and had never suggested I join their marriage. He'd been using her as an excuse to keep me close, hoping I'd change my mind about being with him. I was floored. The man I thought I knew was a stranger to me now. I felt a mix of anger and betrayal. I had trusted him as a friend, and he'd been manipulating me all along. I told Harry that I couldn't have him in my life anymore. He tried to explain, but I wasn't having any of it. I walked away without looking back, cutting him off for good. After that confrontation, I blocked Harry's number and all his social media accounts. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was wrong. A couple of days later, Sally showed up at my workplace. She was in tears, holding a stack of printed text messages between Harry and me. Sally had found out about Harry's lies when she stumbled upon our messages on his phone. She was devastated and had come to me for the truth. I felt terrible for her. She'd been dragged into a situation she didn't deserve. I told her everything, and she thanked me for being honest with her. Sally decided she needed to take action and left, saying she had a lot to think about. The next day, I heard from a mutual friend that Sally had kicked Harry out of their house. She was done with his lies and deceit. It was a tough situation, but I felt a sense of relief that she was taking steps to look out for herself. Just when I thought things were settling down, another twist hit me. My boss called me into his office. He'd heard about the drama from other employees and was concerned about the workplace environment. I explained the situation, and thankfully, he was understanding. He asked me to keep my personal life separate from work. and to inform him if Sally or Harry tried to contact me again. Life has a way of throwing curveballs, and this whole ordeal with Harry and Sally was one I never expected. I'm just trying to move on and keep my head up. It's been a rough few days, but I'm looking forward to putting this all behind me. Thanks for reading. My business partner cheats on his GF with our friend. So I expose him and end our partnership, leaving him with nothing. So, over this weekend, we took an impromptu trip to Toronto. It was me, 19-year-old female, my boyfriend, Charlie, 20-year-old male, our friend, but mainly his friend, business partner, Tom, 20-year-old male, and my friend Amy, 19-year-old female. This story also involves Tom's girlfriend, Chloe, 21-year-old female. So there's quite some background to this, so bear with me here. Charlie and Tom have been friends for a majority of their lives. They have always been extremely close. Over the past year, they've been renovating an old barn on Charlie's grandma's property together, with the hopes of starting a shop in there and running a business. This is extremely serious. They just paid $8,000 USD to have someone set up electrical there, and spent nights digging trenches for the conduit until late, sometimes even midnight. Now, for years, Tom has been pursuing Chloe. A little over a year ago, Chloe and Tom finally started going out. She even moved in with him not long ago. Unfortunately, Tom and Chloe broke up about 2 months ago because Tom had nudes from another girl sent to him, and it was suspected he cheated. They have been consistently working on their relationship since then, with the idea that he'd change and grow a bit before they were official again. All seemed well and good. Now, Amy and I have been friends for a couple of years now. When I first met Amy, I didn't like her because I heard she was a homewrecker and very promiscuous, but I have become very fond of her. She definitely is promiscuous, but it wasn't as bad as I was led to believe. However, Amy and Tom have slept together a couple of times, while Tom was pursuing Chloe. I didn't think it was bad, but there is history there. Anyway, Tom, Amy, Charlie, and I all went up to a big Canadian city because we can't drink in the States. We went up on Saturday and came back on Sunday. Super short trip, we just wanted to have fun. Obviously, we drank quite a bit. We were bar hopping, whatever. I thought there was some tension of a intimacy nature between Amy and Tom, but I looked past it. We'd been drinking and smoking. Amy and Tom wanted to go to a strip club. Tom loves them, and Amy had never been to one. There was one right down the street from our hotel. We decided to go after our bar hopping to finish up the night. We went, and immediately this place felt off. It was skeevy, kind of dirty, and the strippers were too insistent on taking us all to VIP. But we decided to do it, mainly at the insistence of Tom. We got back there, and it wasn't bad, but it was expensive. Charlie and I didn't want to stay long. Tom definitely wanted to stay. We stayed just long enough to see the stripper's egg on Tom and Amy to kiss. We decided to leave and went back to the hotel. But Amy and Tom stayed for a bit longer. When we got back, we showered. And when Tom and Amy got back, Amy showered. But while Amy was in there, Tom went in. They didn't come out for a while, and Charlie and I ended up falling asleep. In the morning, Amy told us that she and Tom had thought about hooking up. This made Charlie and I extremely uncomfortable, but we didn't say anything. We went home, and now it's Monday. I started talking to Amy about this weekend and asked what was up between her and Tom. I also asked what she knew of the situation between Tom and Chloe. She said Tom told her that he and Chloe had an agreement, that they could do whatever while they were on their break. That was kind of a flag for me, because from what Charlie and I had understood, Chloe and Tom were working on their relationship. It turns out Tom and Amy had made out a lot that night, more than just the kiss at the strip club. I immediately started explaining to Amy how uncomfortable Charlie and I were about the situation. Amy didn't really understand why, but whatever. I told her that I wanted to check with Chloe about the situation, because I didn't foresee Tom being upfront about the situation. So, after I got out of work, I talked to Chloe. She told me that they had agreed to remain exclusive while they, again mainly Tom, worked on themselves for their relationship. She was very crushed to hear about what happened. I felt extremely bad for telling her and not giving Tom a chance. But Charlie and I agreed that it was best to tell Chloe now. Chloe went over to Tom's house to talk. She just got back and told me Tom basically said he's just dumb and he's sorry, he doesn't think, and then started talking about childhood trauma, I guess. I've always viewed stuff like that as kind of guilt tripping, or not really taking accountability. But I didn't say that to Chloe, and I'm wondering if that's even a correct view of the situation. Was I wrong for telling Chloe? I know they had a complicated relationship and weren't technically together, but they did agree to be exclusive, and were seeing each other at least 4 times a week still. Also, Charlie is extremely disappointed in Tom. He has a huge thing against cheaters, understandably so. And Charlie and Chloe have been friends for a long time too, so he feels incredibly bad for her. He was very upset and feels like he can't even work with him without being upset. How do people navigate situations like this? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You did the right thing. You saw something that was wrong, you felt bad, like anybody with a conscience would, and you decided to act on it. Nothing wrong with that. That's the thing about being an adult. If you decide to cheat, that's on you. But don't be mad at the inevitable consequence to follow. Tom is an adult and cheated, knowing he was in a relationship. He made his bed. Let him lie in it. Comment 2. You went through this entire damn explanation just to tell us Tom cheated with Amy and you told his girlfriend. Tom is garbage, Amy a hoochie, and Chloe is mildly dumb. Childhood trauma my butt. Chloe and you two need to move on. At the end of the day, it's the young 20s, and by God, I'm glad I'm not that age anymore. Now for the update. Thanks for keeping up with my updates. So, the drama from last weekend just kept unfolding. After Chloe confronted Tom about the whole strip club incident, things got really tense. Charlie was fuming. He couldn't believe Tom would do something like that, especially since they were supposed to be working on the barn project together. It's like, how can you trust someone with a business if you can't even trust them in a relationship, right? Charlie and I had a long talk about it. He's always been the kind of guy who sticks to his principles, and loyalty means everything to him. He told me he was seriously considering cutting ties with Tom, both as a friend and in business. That's a big deal because they've been through so much together. I mean, they've been friends since they were kids, playing in the dirt and dreaming up crazy plans, and now they were about to open a shop together. It's crazy how things can change so fast. Meanwhile, Amy was feeling pretty guilty. She kept saying she didn't know about Tom and Chloe's agreement to be exclusive, but I could tell she was worried about losing me as a friend. I've always been straight up with her, even when I first thought she was trouble. But we've grown close, and I didn't want to just ditch her over this mess. On Wednesday, things got even more complicated. Chloe decided to give Tom another chance. She said she believed in second chances and that everyone makes mistakes. I get that, but it's hard to watch someone you care about go back to a situation that hurt them. Charlie, on the other hand, wasn't so forgiving. He told me he couldn't look at Tom the same way anymore. It was like a switch had flipped. By Friday, Charlie had made up his mind. He called Tom and told him he was out of the barn project. Tom was shocked. He tried to apologize, saying he'd messed up and that he'd do anything to make it right. But Charlie wasn't having it. He said some things can't be undone, and trust is one of them. The weekend was rough. Charlie spent most of it at his grandma's barn, clearing out his tools and stuff. It was sad to see all their hard work just end. But Charlie said he'd rather start over than build something with someone he couldn't trust. And then, the news dropped. On Sunday night, Tom showed up at our place. He was a mess, begging Charlie to reconsider. He said the barn was his dream too, and without Charlie, it was all falling apart. But Charlie stood his ground. He said he needed a partner he could rely on in business and in life. Tom left, and it was like you could feel the weight of everything that had happened. Charlie was quiet for a long time. I knew he was hurting, losing his best friend and his dream all at once. But he said something that stuck with me. He said, "Sometimes, doing the right thing doesn't feel good, but it's still right." So, that's where we're at. Charlie's looking for a new place to set up shop, and I'm just trying to support him however I can. It's a mess, but I guess that's life, right? Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.